for watching the Facebook Live event, which we had 2 days ago on Tuesday. Today I will be doing a video summary of the Facebook Live event to compensate for the fact that the sound was somewhat distorted on the event, and I would like us to be ready for the album release tomorrow of Ambiro's Journey. Tomorrow, December 22nd, Friday, is the official release of the album Ambiro's Journey. I'm going to respond to some of the questions that people ask me about the album and play some music, improvise some music relating to the music on the album. Ambiro's Journey is a piano improvisation album, 72 minutes of solo improvised music, played continuously and recorded in a single unedited take. At the same time, it relates to a narrative story. The story is the soul-searching journey of the protagonist, Ambiro. Ambire in Italian is to aspire, and the protagonist starts from a place where he feels somewhat trapped, somewhat tormented, confused. He wants to break out from his situation, and he goes through a string of events, experiences. Some of them are external, but some of them are internal, and he emerges as a different person at the end. At the beginning, we start with awakening. I will play some notes that relate to awakening. In the accompanying music video of Ambiro's Journey, which is available online on my social channels, we have the main character, the protagonist, emerging from the water, from the lake, as part of awakening. And the video was prepared by Omid Hashemi, Neime Gabaye, Aran Yardeni, and Yam Yardeni. Yam Yardeni is the actor playing in the film, and so there is this idea of birth or rebirth at the very beginning, and then the second track on the album is called Ambiro's Tormented Soul, and it sounds something like this. That's his initial state, and then he goes on a journey. At first, he is curious and he wants to find his way. So there is the playful path of curiosity. Now, some people ask me, what kind of music do I play now on the video if it's improvised and there is the music recorded for the album? Well, the same track title, for example, The Playful Path of Curiosity, track number 3, can be improvised in several different ways. So I can play it in such a way. It can also be played like this. played like this. It can also be played like this. And in a number of different ways. So all of these are improvisations that relate to a central idea. Now, another question that was received is how do I decide about the harmonic language, the musical language, the stylistic choices? So most of the album is free improvisation in a style which I develop as I play the piano. And there are a couple of specific references to other styles, which I will talk about soon. But in terms of the general style, when I play something, let's say we start with this. And then we think, where can we take it? That's one possibility. We can also do so each of those take the music into a different place. And while we can define chords and harmonies and discuss them in terms of their quality, the way we do when we talk about music theory and explaining lots of things, which I do when I talk with my students, for example. While I'm creating, composing, improvising, the important thing is to find how I relate to the material and what feels right with the material. So the decision has to be subjective, and with improvisation the decision happens in the moment, and then there is no way back. The music that you play becomes part of the piece, and then you proceed onwards. Let's get back to the actual journey. So Ambiro proceeds with the playful path of curiosity, then he is breaking the walls, shielding the depth of existence. Embarking on the journey. Afterwards, there is the first of 5 reflective moments. The reflective moments in the album are references to past musical styles. And the first reflective moment is when Ambiro enters an abandoned temple. abandoned temple. Later on, there is another reflective moment when he goes to an intimate garden. Something like this. Again, this is improvised differently than in the recording, but it follows a similar direction. And there are more and more reflective moments. There are 5 different reflective moments which give the protagonist, Ambiro, a chance to reflect on his progress or to reflect on his current situation. And for me it was important to reference past musical styles such as Baroque, classical, romantic, impressionistic, atonal, 5 different styles, and I wanted in this way to create a dialogue between my own music, which is in the style that I'm developing, and existing musical styles. Later on, he goes on and he encounters the Knights of Jealousy. He's confronting the Knights, K-N-I-G-H-T, Knights of Jealousy. This is also part of the journey. Another thing that happens later on, he goes to the Valley of Dark Mirrors, where he is stepping through a flaming labyrinth. Then he is facing the dragon's roar, the dragon, the big dragon, and then eventually he's collecting silent echoes at the valley's edge. The last track on the album is the end. With a liberated soul, Ambiro's smiles in gratitude. And that is the conclusion of his journey, where he goes back to where he started, but this time with maybe newly acquired wisdom, with new experiences. Now, one thing that's interesting here is how this can be told in words, in actually writing out the story. This is music, this is programmatic music, music relating to a narrative story, but the story is only outlined by the titles on the album. So one thing that's interesting for me is how you, the listeners, will relate to the story and maybe find different ways of elaborating the story. So the music on the album is programmatic music, and once you listen to it, I would be interested in reading your own written versions of Ambiro's journey. What is actually happening, to describe what's actually happening in the different states of his development, and also the different stops in his journey. And I will be curious and interested in reading your stories, and I will feature selected stories on my website and social channels. And I would like to conclude now with playing free improvisation, not necessarily related to the album, but to just conclude with some improvised music.